My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. Welcome back, everybody. Eli here. And today on Meet Cool People, I have a guest, Michael Stewart. He and I recently got connected through the Success Champions Network, where a lot of my guests come from, because these are the cool people that I get to hang out with. Let me tell you a little bit about him before I bring him in. After a career in banking and business finance, Michael became involved very early on in the development of commercial internet marketing in the late 1990s, which is obviously a good reason why he and I connected and became fast friends, because I've been around in all that time as well. He became a consultant and fractional CMO, marketing director, working with SME businesses. And nowadays he is focused on business growth through his Business Planning Plus brand, helping businesses of all sizes build effective plans for success. With that said, Michael, it's good to have you here, my friend.
Nice to see you. Great to be here.
Awesome. So, we met through Success Champions. I was actually working with with the speaker program, and you and I met there, had a great chat just last week, and immediately hit it off. Again, I said this in your intro, it's because you've been around in the internet marketing space way longer than most people. There's not a whole lot of us that can actually say that, which is a lot of fun. So tell us a little bit more about, what is Business Planning Plus? What are you doing, and how are you helping your clients?
Well, Business Planning Plus was formed because as I worked as a CMO in businesses, as a fractional CMO, and I've been doing that for 15 years. As I worked in businesses, I realized that those that were most successful were the ones that had great plans. So I was part of a senior leadership team and putting together my element of a plan about how we were going to drive the business forward. But I realized that other areas of the business weren't doing their bit. And so I created a framework and put a brand on it, Business Planning Plus. And I've been doing that with businesses, SME businesses, and some small businesses as well, some solopreneurs ever since.
Awesome. I love it. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is you're working with clients across the board, smaller and bigger, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with that said, I know you're doing some stuff right now that deals with like international stuff, but I want to talk about some of the stuff on our side. And I saw this on your LinkedIn, and that's what brought this to my attention. Was you post a lot about business owners having their business plan in place with the idea that they can actually take a holiday and not have to stress out about how things are going. And I would love for you to expand on that. Let's kind of have that in our conversation for today.
Cool. All right. Well, there's two holiday references that I make. The first one is that most people spend more time planning their holidays than they do planning their business success. You probably know that yourself if you've ever tried to organize a trip with more than just you and your wife on it. Getting everybody together takes hours and hours. And yet you think, how long does somebody actually take to plan their business success? And generally every year it's not very long. And so that's one of the references that I make to holidays. But often I find people that are in very, very successful businesses, but they are still so dependent, even in big businesses, so dependent on the solopreneur. So not on the solopreneur, on the owner, on the business leader, if you like. And so it's about leveraging time. It's about leveraging technology. As you know, it's about leveraging people and relationships as well, and building a business which is stronger, more profitable, more successful, and something that you can walk away from, if you like, and leave for a week. Because if you can't, you've not really got a business there.
Absolutely. I totally understand that. And you and I were talking for just a couple minutes before we actually hit record here. And we were talking about that fact that's like, oh yeah, what did you do this weekend? I worked this weekend, and that happens. And we as entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs, we get stuck into that a lot. What is it that what are those first steps? Because as we're growing our business, obviously, I know you're working with a lot of bigger companies who obviously they have staff, but the owners are still in that situation.
Mhm.
What are some of the, if I'm in a solopreneur situation right now,
Yeah.
what should I be putting in place right now to make sure I don't end up in that phase now down the road when I do start having staff and I want to actually take that time off?
Yeah.
What are those first steps to think about?
I think the big mistake is that people don't invest in the business, and by that I don't mean build getting some premises or build or buying a building or something like that. What I mean
Right.
is that they don't put in place processes and systems and leverage technology or people with them. And I think that goes on right through up to businesses that could be multi-million pound businesses. If it's still dependent on the business owner and everything has to go through there, they're just going to be a bigger bottleneck than they are when it's only
Right.
us dealing with it. And so there are rules. I don't know whether you've talked about these before, but if you're going to do something more than twice or three times, you should automate it. You've got to
Mhm.
find some way to automate it, right? Okay. If you've done something more than twice, you've sent the same email more than twice, get an automation in it. It's so easy to do now. And also with even building AI and getting that working with the kind of platforms that you work with, etc., and getting automations running. Even if it's just simple, when you've done a networking call, to do a follow up that's just a nice email that then does something and that captures information. When you capture information,
Mhm.
capture it into a system. It doesn't have to be all singing, all dancing. It doesn't have to be complicated, but let's automate some of these things. And I think
Right.
when you've got a big business, and but they've got the same challenges, it's because they haven't invested over time. So for us to be able to get a break, we need to invest in technology and invest in automation in some way, shape, or form. And I think even bigger businesses are not investing enough in freeing up the business owner to do that, and it's got big consequences.
Right. Yeah, and that's, for me, and again, most of our listeners and most of the clients that I work with are in that solopreneur or small
Mhm.
business phase. And I always tell people there's a couple of things. Like, number one is you just brought up the emails. It's like, okay, once you, especially networking, once you've sent out 5 emails that are follow-ups after networking, you realize they're all saying the same silly thing.
Yeah,
So why don't you copy and paste it into a Google Doc and have it saved so it's ready to go?
yeah,
That way you can copy, paste, tweak it as needed. So it's not exactly
yeah,
the same thing, and then send it. But now
yeah,
instead of spending 5 minutes writing that email, you spent 30 seconds to a minute.
absolutely.
And
Here's a
that's,
little tip for you. I,
mhm,
I mean, I don't know whether you're a Google user or a Microsoft user, but I'm a Microsoft user. I create them as email signatures. I have my CRM system that does automations as well, but I have
right.
them as
Mhm,
email signatures. And you open up new email, right click on it, and change the email signature. And you can put a whole raft of
mhm.
information at the start of that. So you've
Yeah.
got a whole email. It doesn't just have to be an email signature. You
Oh,
could put
yeah.
offers of the day in or
Mhm.
whatever you could do. And every talk to people, just follow up. Here, quick, here's a link.
Yeah.
This is what I want. And so even doing something as simple as that, everybody's got that capability, haven't they? They just don't leverage it or they don't think about it. I didn't think about it till somebody told me about it. I thought,
Oh,
oh, what a
yeah.
great idea.
Yeah, well, and like if you're a Google user, which is what I am,
Yeah,
they have templates built in that you can use, and most people
right,
don't even realize they're there. And I used to put probably 10 or 15 templates in there. Now I've even evolved to a piece of software. It's a text expander,
right.
and I have it. It's the one that I use is called A Text. It's like maybe $20. I mean, it's super
Mhm.
cheap. I think when I first bought it, it was only $5, and I think they finally got smart and actually charged a little bit more closer to what it's worth.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have stuff in there where I can literally go, email one or networking follow up, and it just writes the whole thing for me in one shot. And then I could put that in any platform. And I have
Yeah.
shortcuts for signatures. I have shortcuts for instructions for my team, which, I'm
Mhm.
sure we could probably talk about this a little bit, is like creating SOPs and some of the things, instructions for our team.
Yeah.
How do we speed that process up? I have things that are literally, okay, if you're going to do these things, here's the basic information you need, and I have that as a text expander process. So I've got like 7 or 8 different type of tasks that I'll assign to my guys, but they might need that same chunk of information for all of those. I
Yeah.
can literally type in it's backslash AAGHL and it pastes that in
Yeah.
just like that. And it's a whole paragraph of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's simple things like that that I love them. I mean, these are where the
Yeah.
automation geek in me goes crazy.
Well, there's a story I heard. I think it was Brad Sugars who runs
Mhm.
Action Coach. You wear Action
Yeah,
Coach. Yeah, you have
it's a
Action
name I
Coach.
haven't heard in a
Of course,
long
you'll have Action
time.
Coach in the US. Okay,
We have them here.
he talks about $5,000 tasks an hour tasks,
Mhm.
$500 an hour tasks, $50 an hour tasks, and $5 an hour tasks. Sending an email is a $5 an hour task.
Right.
Okay. Checking your banking is a $5 an hour task. Now, doing the day job, that's a $50 an hour task. And it doesn't matter what value you put on them, but broadly, it's
Right.
about the exponential growth. $50, that's doing the day job. That is producing an order, doing this, whatever it is
Mhm.
that you're doing. 500 is probably about business development, but 5,000 is about thinking about your business and how you can grow your business. Now, if you are stuck doing $5 and $50 an hour tasks, don't be surprised if you earn $5 or $50 an hour.
Right.
What you need to be doing is getting up and doing $500 and $5,000 an hour tasks.
Right.
Same if you're a business owner, even in a big business that's an engineering company. If you're still working on the tools, don't be surprised if your entrepreneurial reward is what a guy who works on the tools gets. You're not doing. You've got to, as a business leader, whether you're small or big, you should be talking about 5,000. Looking at $5,000 an hour
Right.
task. Where's my next opportunity? How do I exploit that? How do I make that happen? How do I leverage people, leverage time, leverage technology to make my business better? And I think that really encapsulates it really well. Where you say to
Mhm.
somebody, "You're doing $5 an hour tasks. Don't be surprised that you're only earning $5 an hour," because they go, "I'm not earning enough money," and you go, "No, you're doing the wrong stuff." And that's
Right.
stuff that we can automate, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I love that you brought that up. I love that you brought up Brad Sugars. I haven't heard that name in a long time. I may have gotten rid of him, but I don't think so. I may still have his entire library of books. I got them when they were new, like when
On
as he was
cassette.
releasing them. Yeah. The books, like the actual books in the
Oh, you've got the
bookstore.
books. You haven't got them on
I
audio
didn't. No, I
cassette.
didn't get the audios.
There's nowhere
No,
to play them.
no. At the time, I don't know that he had an audio cassette
Yeah,
package, although it would have been right around that time frame. But I actually saw them in a. So I don't know if you guys did have these because they don't exist at all anymore. But we had a Borders Books, and
yeah,
they're kind of like a Barnes and Noble.
yeah.
They went out of business forever ago. I'm pretty sure I kept the local one alive for many years just by myself
Right.
because of how much money I
Yeah,
gave them. But that's where I originally found his books, and yeah, I've always been a big fan of his stuff. But I think that that's you brought up a really great exercise that not enough people do are stopping and list out all the tasks that you do for the day.
mhm,
And I think this is a great thing. Like businesses do that because they do that for tracking, especially for like sales guys and stuff like that.
yeah,
It's like, okay, list out what are you doing from this time to this time? I did this. And
mhm,
as solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, we're like, we don't want that kind of oversight. I'm not going to do that because we got tired of it, but they didn't realize how powerful that exercise really is. That if you were to
yeah,
sit down and just for even just 2 days, and just get out print out a piece of paper that basically has from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever your schedule is, right?
yeah,
And you just wrote down everything that you did in that time frame for just 2 days. And
yeah.
then next to it, you look at that and you put down what's the dollar value of each one of those
Mm.
things. You'll see where your money's going. And it's a really powerful exercise. And I don't think enough people do that.
I would agree with you, and I think it's really powerful. Maybe because in some ways we have a an understanding of what an hour of our time can generate in terms of income because
Hmm.
we're doing a consulting type
Right.
job. We're working for some. The big thing is that we don't want to just exchange time for money, but ostensibly we are still exchanging time for money. So we
Hmm.
have an idea of an hour of our time. And if you look at the day and you go, I've billed 2 hours out of 8 days, out of 8 hours,
Out of
sorry,
yours.
2 hours out of 8 hours, you're going, the six times my hourly rate is the money there. And you think, well, I can hire somebody for that. Well, you're
Right.
a consultant or you're an expert in whatever it is that you are doing, whether that's shining cars or mowing lawns or fixing sinks or whatever it is that you do as a solopreneur, or whether you are a big business, you're an expert at what it is that you're doing and you charge a premium for doing that. Those £5 an hour tasks can be done and outsourced much lower than the hourly rate. You really have to think, and this is where you have to think not of it as a cost to the business, but really an investment in
Right.
freeing up your time to create more money. You
Hmm.
should spend 10 and bill 100. I don't know what the numbers are for everybody, and everybody
Right.
will have a different number. But that's really part of the thinking. I think it, I think as solopreneurs, you need to get out of the thought of this is my money.
Hmm.
It's the business's money, and a business person would invest the money in some marketing, in some administrative support, and all the rest of it. And I mean, just for the solopreneurs, I don't know anybody that has been able to take the step into having, whether it's a virtual assistant or a real assistant or real staff, that it hasn't changed their life, even if it's just doing the accounts or doing
Hmm.
the invoicing or things like that, that it hasn't been, that they haven't seen a massive reward on it. Now, it feels like a massive leap of faith, and everybody says it's a last massive leap of faith.
It
And I know
is.
people who run multi-million pound businesses, the first time they employed somebody, it felt like, I've said to people, somebody has said, I said, could you afford it? And they went, no, but they did it, and
Right.
they've never looked back. And
Yeah.
I think even whether it's just automations, if you get into automations or you're doing this or whatever it is that you do it, find some way to leverage technology, and you will see the benefits. But we're all great, aren't we? I mean, we sit here and we're perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say I am absolutely perfect in every. Oh yes, I have every automation, and I never waste any time. I think there's a big thing out there that everybody reads 3 books a week, don't they? And everybody does 40 posts a week, and everybody listens to 12 podcasts, and we're creating all this content or whatever. There's this myth that's out there. Nobody's suggesting that
I'm,
I'm
I'm just going to say, whoever's doing that, no wonder they're broke because they're not doing any damn work.
yeah, absolutely, nothing billable. But even just baby steps. And
Right.
I think somebody says to me, if I improve my business by a third of 1% today,
Hmm.
0.3% in a year, it'll be 100% better, won't it?
Yeah,
That's not,
absolutely.
but we think we have to sit down and I'm going to spend 3 days doing that. Well, no, you've written that email, chuck it in an email signature, and you've made a start. Haven't you?
Right.
Little things, It's like
Yeah.
going to the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, for me, like I have a phrase that I use with my clients, automate what you can, delegate what you can't, and delete all the crap you shouldn't be doing anyway.
Right.
I call that entrepreneur ADD.
Right. Okay. Love it. Love it. Yeah. I mean, and there's so many frameworks. I mean, there's so many smart people. I didn't come up with any of this, but there's all the stuff about whether things are important or whether they're
Urgent. Yeah.
yeah, urgent and
Important and
important.
urgent.
And yeah,
The
that's
what is
right.
it?
It's a matrix,
Is
isn't
it
it?
the
If it's urgent
Eisenhower
and
matrix, I think
important,
is what
you
they
do
call it?
it. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are great. And I think that all the stuff we're talking about, there's a lot of things to really like the exercise of writing down all your tasks and then putting a dollar amount next to them or doing the
Yeah.
important matrix, things like that. These things work for a reason. And
Yeah.
I think that so many people, we just discount them. We don't think about it. It's like, oh yeah, I get it. That's kind of cool. And then you just move on about your day. But
Yeah.
this is the kind of stuff that if we plan on taking our solopreneur business to another level, to the point where we can grow, we can make, we can expand, we can hire people. Even honestly, even if we didn't want to hire people, a lot of what you're talking about, you keep bringing up automation, which happens to be like one of my favorite topics to talk about. These are things that if we can leverage these things, it gives us the ability to scale the business. Also, we don't drop the ball. We don't screw up as much, which that's a big reason why I'm very much into it. Is like automation is not going to mess up. I mean, yes, technology will break from time to time. It happens, but
Yeah,
it's going to make a lot less mistakes than a human will. And
abs-
and if you have a human that's trained properly with documentation on a process, they're going to make a whole lot of less mistakes than you making it off the top of your head every time.
absolutely. I
I
think I think for me as well, the when you talk about taking a step back, I think this comes back to the planning process
yeah,
and planning. There's two elements to it. There's doing the plan, there's writing the plan, and then there's executing the plan.
yeah,
The writing of the plan is not the important thing. So having a plan isn't the important thing. The important thing is that you've thought about the things that need to go into the plan. So you've
right,
rolled back some of those rocks to see what's underneath. You've taken the time to do that. Okay. And we don't it doesn't have to be a week. If you're a solopreneur in your own
hmm,
business, it doesn't have to be a week. But what you also do is that you then execute that plan as well. That's the most important thing. And
yeah,
and if I'm doing this with a big business, I'm going to hold people accountable across. I have 11 core areas in the business: sales, marketing, purchasing, operations, customers. Yeah, I go through the whole 11. Okay. And somebody in a larger business is responsible for each one of those areas. But even as a small business, you go, well, what does success look like? And you can get into the whole thing of when you're manifesting it because you say, oh, it is now. What is it? The 18th of August, 2030, and I am here and I'm doing that. Yeah, you can write it like that. But you go, I did it for when I was 50. I know you can't believe I'm over 50, but I am. I did it for my 50th birthday. What did I want? And it was about 4 years out. I said, what did I want my business to look like? What sort of work did I want to be doing? What sort of clients did I want to be working with? And then what were the things that were important to me, even just my own values?
hmm,
It's important that I want to try and bring energy to a situation. I want to bring some real thinking to the situation. I don't just want to regurgitate, somebody else's franchise model that I take people through as a robot, if you like. I've got
right,
to add. So I have what my brand values are. But then what you do is for 4 years in making that plan, every decision I made was made through the lens of,
hmm,
is it getting me towards doing that? And there's a book. I don't know whether you talk about it in the US, but we certainly talk about it in the UK here. It's called "Will It Make the Boat Go Faster?" Okay, and this
I
was
haven't
an
heard of that one.
right. Okay, well, this is an Olympic 8 in the rowing. Okay, and
Okay,
they were going for a gold medal at the Olympic Games, and they just had a simple phrase. Whenever they did something, they just ran it through the process of, will it make the boat go faster?
okay,
If I eat this pizza, will it make the boat go faster? If I go out to this party, will it make the boat go faster? If I miss this
mm,
training session, will it make the boat go faster? That's the thing. Will it make the boat go faster? And everything's made through that lens. And you see how
right,
powerful that could be about, is this moving me that way or is it moving me that way? And really that's what a plan is all about. What does
right,
success look like is the fundamental for a small business or a big business. And then it's about executing. And we can move on to talk about that a little bit if you want. But the purpose of sitting down and actually thinking about your business, you go taking that step back, having a look from the outside, and saying, right, okay, what am I doing here that I shouldn't be doing? Which again is about delegation.
hmm,
Am I doing work that I love? Is this the business that I envisaged? And if not, how do I change what I'm doing to stop doing that and start doing more of this? I mean, they're quite simple questions in some ways, but they need some thought. And that for me is what the plan's all about.
right. No, and I love that, and I think that bringing that up, I think it's really good that like all of us, and I think not enough business owners do that because we think of a business plan as this big lengthy thing that's just
Yeah.
daunting to put together. But the reality is you could literally spend an hour or two on the weekend and just write out, you know, what do I want my business to look like in a year?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
12 months out, what should the business look like? What are the things I'm going to need to do to get there? And what are the things do I need to get rid of to get
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything else? I mean, because you're the business plan guy. So what else would you say put into this?
Well, if you were doing this for a business, okay, and we were doing it for, again, I talk about a business. Listen, I'm a solopreneur, as I say, which is my standard joke. There's only one idiot in my business you have to deal with, and you're looking at him. Okay, okay. If you're working with a big business, though, okay, we would set a vision, and then we would talk about missions and values, which lots of people think is just the stuff that goes on the wall. But
Right.
I define this as being the vision. What do we want to be famous for? What does success look like? Okay. I want to be seen as somebody that talks sense when they go into a business, brings energy to a situation, and can bring some insight and help drive that business forward and help it accelerate its growth. That's what I want to be seen for.
Right.
Okay. And from that perspective, that's the vision, if you like, of
Right.
what we're trying to do here. The mission is then what do I need to do every day? So that may be making the right connections or whatever. In another business, that could be maintaining quality, giving great customer service or whatever. Those are the missions. They're the everyday. And then what we've got outside of that is the values. What are the behaviors that we would like to see in a business if we were running a business? And
Mm-hmm.
generally, they're the converse of what really grinds our gears and winds us up. I hate it when people are late. So, the value that we want to see is punctuality or responsibility or whatever it is that you do. You put the value. And in a big business, we would call that a culture. When you've got everybody aligned with a vision, you've got everybody executing the missions, and you've got everybody working to said values. You've got the start of a culture and a team where everybody's aligned. But
Mm-hmm.
even just for us, what does success look like? What do we want our future to look like? And often that is that we're not working 40, 50, 60 hours a week because we
Right.
work as solopreneurs because we're trying to get some flexibility and freedom in our life, and we want to do the stuff which really lights our fire, and
Right.
not just the stuff that's the $5 and $50 an hour stuff, because that's great, and for me it's business planning rather than marketing now. I've done 35 years of marketing, and what I want to do now is business planning.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That is awesome.
Cool.
Very cool. So we're getting close to the end of the time here, and I got a couple of questions for you. One, before we get to the last two questions. Last two questions I'll explain in a second. They're super easy. But if somebody were to look at you know everything we talked about today, what's the first step that they should be taking, like right out of the gate? Like they should do it this week.
I think I think two things. I think we've talked about where do they save time and leverage time so they can do the right sort of things. But
Right.
that definition of what does success look like and what do they want to be doing,
Awesome.
I think people do say, "Oh, you should do something that you're passionate about," and that doesn't mean you can make a profitable business. It should be something that you enjoy, but something that has real value. So you have to look at it like that. I don't think you should just tell everybody to leave their job and just do something that they're passionate about. I think there's a bit more to it than that from a
Right.
business. But yeah, I think those would be my two things. I know you asked for one, but two things. What does success look like for you? What do you want, and where can I streamline systems and processes and leverage time, people,
Awesome.
technology?
Very cool. I love it. Awesome. Okay, final two questions. Super easy. Last one's the easy one. How do people get a hold of you? Now,
Yeah,
but before that, this is the Meet Cool People show. So I like
yeah.
to ask all of my guests, what does Meet Cool People mean to you?
Cool people for me are people that you can have a conversation with and you can ask them great questions. For me, I think it's one of the most important things that you can do as an individual. Everybody knows something, but knows more about something than you do. They've got an area of specialism, and if they've been successful, why have they been successful? Tell me. And there's a great way of asking questions, which is tell me, explain, or describe. If you start the sentence with Tell me more about what made you successful. Explain a bit more about that. Describe what that was like. If you ask great questions, then you're going to get great responses. And for me, everybody's a cool person if you can get them to open up and explain more about their area of brilliance.
Awesome. I love it. That is cool, cool stuff. Very cool. Okay. And then the last question, this is the easy one. How do people get a hold of you?
Best place to get a hold of me and have a look is that you'll find me on LinkedIn, but probably easiest if you just go to my website. So it's www.askmjs. MJS is my initials. Don't put .com on the end. I'm in the UK. It's .co.uk. So it's www.askmjs.co.uk. So very short and sweet. And you can find me at michael@askmjs.co.uk if you want to drop me an email. All my contact details on there, and you'll find my link to my LinkedIn and things like that as well.
Awesome. Very cool. And I do recommend anybody listening, if you found this valuable at all, reach out to Michael, but definitely follow up with him on LinkedIn, follow his stuff. He posts some pretty good stuff. I actually, before I do a show with anybody, I like to read the last couple of posts to see, I was like, okay, is there anything cool that I can add from this? And he's got a ton of great stuff up there. So Michael, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Been brilliant. Loved it. Loved the conversation. We'll catch up again soon, I'm sure.
All right. Awesome. And everybody else out there, get out there. Have an awesome day. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out. Let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rock star.